Let's share the screen here. This is historic because it's the first verse of the first chapter of the first canto. We're finished with the introduction.
We're on the sages.
Huh?
We got the sages.
Question by the sages, yeah, the first chapter. Text, it's Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1:1:1. Questions by the sages. So I'm just going to read the Sanskrit and the synonyms, and you can read the translation after that, okay?
All right.
This is a pretty famous verse. You know, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada's spiritual master spent a whole month on this one verse. That's how packed with meaning it is. Okay, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyas. Oh, here's Melissa. Melissa, can you hear me? Melissa. Haribo. Can't hear you. Oh, I can hear you now. Whoops. Let me turn my camera on here so I can stay on the video. Hey, Melissa.
Hi, I hope I'm not too late.
You're not late. You're just on time. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to read the Sanskrit and the synonyms, and Alan's going to read the translation, and then you can read the first paragraph, okay?
Okay.
We'll just do it in order like that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yaton Vayad Itaras Chartvitse Shapignasarat Tene Brahmahrida Ya Adikariye Kavaye Moyanti Yasariya Tejo Varim Madam Yata Vinamayo Yatratu Shargo Misha Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dimahi. Synonyms: Om, O my Lord. Namah, offering my obeisances. Bhagavate, unto the personality of Godhead. Vasudevaya, unto Vasudev, the son of Vasudev, or Lord Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord. Janmadi, creation, sustenance, and destruction. Asya, of the manifested universes. Yata, from whom, anvayat, directly. Itara, indirectly. Cha, and. Arteshu, purposes. Abhigna, fully cognizant. Svarat, fully independent. Tene, imparted. Brahma, the Vedic knowledge. Hrida, consciousness of the heart. Ya, one who. Adikavaye, unto the original created being. Muyanti, our illusion. Yat, about whom. Surya, great sages and demigods. Teja, fire. Vadi, water. Mridam, earth. Yata, as much as. Vinamaya, action and reaction. Yatra, whereupon. Trisarga, the three modes of creation, creative faculties. Amrisha, almost factual. Damna, along with all transcendental paraphernalia. Svena, self-sufficiently. Sada, always. Nirasta, negation by absence. Kuhakam, illusion. Satyam, truth. Param, absolute. Dhimahi, I do meditate upon. Go ahead, Al.
You get out a little bit. Okay, there it is. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obediences unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval causes of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmajai, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire, or land seen on water. Only because of him to the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factually, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Vasudeva directly indicate Lord Shri Krishna, who is the divine son of Vasudeva and Devaki. This fact will be more explicitly explained in the text of his work. Sri Vasudeva asserts herein that Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all others are his direct or indirect planetary portions or portions of the portion. Srila Jiva Goswami has even more explicitly explained the subject matter in his Krishna Sandarbha and Brahma. The original living being has explained the subject of Sri Krishna substantially in his treatise named Brahma Samhita. In the Upanishad, in the Samaveda, it is also stated that Lord Sri Krishna is the divine son of Devaki. Therefore, in this prayer, the first proposition holds that Lord Sri Krishna is the primeval Lord, and if any transcendental nomenclature is to be understood as belonging to the absolute personality of Godhead, it must be the name indicated by the word Krishna, which means the all-attractive. In Bhagavad Gita, in many places, the Lord asserts himself to be the original personality of Godhead. And this is confirmed by Arjuna and also by great sages like Narada, Vyasa, and many others. In the Padma Purana, it is also stated that out of the innumerable names of the Lord, the name Krishna is the principal one. Vasudeva indicates the plenary portion of the personality of Godhead, and all the different forms of the Lord, being identical with Vasudeva, are indicated in this text. The name Vasudeva particularly indicates the divine son of Vasudeva and Devaki. Sri Krishna is always meditated upon by the pranamasas, who are perfected ones among those who are renounced in the renounced order of life.
Vasudeva, or Lord Shri Krishna, is the cause of all causes. Everything that exists emanates from the Lord. How this is so is explained in later chapters of this work. This work is described by Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya as a spotless Purana because it contains a transcendental narration of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The history of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is also very glorious. It was compiled by Sri Vyasadeva after he had attained maturity in transcendental knowledge. He wrote this under the instructions of Sri Naradaji, his spiritual master. Vyasadeva compiled all Vedic literatures containing the 4 divisions of the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutras, or the Brahma Sutras, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, and so on. But nevertheless, he was not satisfied. His dissatisfaction was observed by his spiritual master, and thus Narada advised him to write on the transcendental activities of Lord Sri Krishna. These transcendental activities are described specifically in the 10th canto of this work. But in order to reach to the very substance, one must proceed gradually by developing knowledge of the categories. Go ahead, Al.
It is natural that a philosophical mind wants to know about the origin of the creation. At night, he sees the stars in the sky, and he naturally speculates about their inhabitants. Such inquiries are natural for man because man has a developed consciousness which is higher than that of the animals. The author of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam gives a direct answer to such inquiries. He says that the Lord Sri Krishna is the origin of all creation, of all creations. He is not only the creator of the universe, but the destroyer as well. The manifested cosmic nature is created at a certain period by the will of the Lord. It is maintained for some time, and then it is annihilated by his will. Therefore, the supreme will is behind all cosmic activities. Of course, there are atheists of various categories who do not believe in a creator, but that is due to a poor fund of knowledge. The modern scientist, for example, has created space satellites, and by some arrangement and other, these satellites are thrown into outer space to fly for some time at the control of the scientist who is far away. Similarly, all the universes with innumerable stars and planets are controlled by the intelligence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay, Melissa.
In Vedic literatures, it is said that the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is the chief amongst all living personalities. All living beings, beginning from the first created being, Brahma, down to the smallest ant, are individual living beings. And above Brahma, there are even other living beings with individual capabilities. And the personality of Godhead is also a similar living being. And he is an individual, as are the other living beings. But the Supreme Lord, or the Supreme Living Being, has the greatest intelligence, and he possesses supermost inconceivable energies of all different varieties. If a man's brain can produce a space satellite, one can very easily imagine how brains higher than man can produce similarly wonderful things which are far superior. The reasonable person will easily accept this argument, but there are stubborn atheists who would never agree. Srila Vasudeva, however, at once accepts the supreme intelligence as the Paramasvara. He offers his respectful obeisances unto the supreme intelligence, addressed as the Para or the Paramasvara, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that Paramasvara is Sri Krishna, as admitted in Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures delivered by Sri Vyasadeva, and specifically in this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that there is no other Paratattva than himself. Therefore, Sri Vyasadeva at once worships the Paratattva, Sri Krishna, whose transcendental activities are described in the 10th canto.
Yeah, para means supreme, and Parameshwar, para means supreme, Ishwar means controller. So Parameshwar means supreme controller. And Paratattva means supreme truth. Unscrupulous persons go immediately to the 10th canto, and especially to the 5 chapters which describe the Lord's rasa dance. This portion of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the most confidential part of this great literature. Unless one is thoroughly accomplished in the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, one is sure to misunderstand the Lord's worshipable transcendental pastimes called rasa dance and his love affairs with the gopis. This subject matter is highly spiritual, and only the liberated persons who have gradually attained to the stage of Paramahansa can transcendentally relish this rasa dance. Srila Vyasadeva therefore gives the reader the chance to gradually develop spiritual realization before actually relishing the essence of the pastimes of the Lord. Therefore, he purposely invokes a Gayatri mantra, Dhimahi. This Gayatri mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people. When one is successful in chanting the Gayatri mantra, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. One must therefore acquire Brahminical qualities or be perfectly situated in the quality of goodness in order to chant the Gayatri mantra successfully and then attain to the stage of transcendentally realizing the Lord, his name, his fame, his qualities, and so on. Paramahansa means supreme swan. Hamsa means swan, and Parama means supreme. The swans are unique in the sense that they can separate the essence of something from another thing. For example, they can take a mixture of milk and water, and just by sucking on it, I guess, they can separate the milk, drink the milk, and leave the water. I don't know how they do that, but go ahead, Melissa.
I don't know if we have much time for like discussion, but I do have a question about the reading last time, and it kind of ties into this. I feel like a lot of the things that they warn us about in the Bhagavad Gita, and even just now, how you were talking about, you know, people kind of just like skipping to the 10th canto. I feel like I run into that a lot in the community of people who like to chant and enjoy the earth. I'd say hippies, but like one time I was at a music festival, and it was just chanting all night, and there was a harmonium there, and I started chanting Hare Krishna, and people were into it, and it was cool. But one of the people there was like he took the harmonium and started doing the Gayatri mantra, and he was like surprised I didn't sing along. He's like, "You don't know the Gayatri mantra?" It's like, "Of course I don't. Of course I don't."
You're not a Brahmana. You have to take Brahmana initiation. Women can take. Prabhupada was the first spiritual master in Indian history to give the Brahminical status to a woman. So women are now eligible to receive the Gayatri mantra. And they don't wear the thread. Men wear a thread. I don't wear a thread because it's just too cumbersome. But the Gayatri mantra is a mantra that's chanted by qualified Brahmanas. You have to be well read in the Vedic literature in order to chant this. And I doubt that guy was an initiated devotee, but he was just trying to show his bona fides by, and try to impress you by, being like, "Oh, you don't know you half your life is wasted if you don't know the Gayatri mantra." But that guy probably doesn't even have a spiritual master. I mean, give me a break. Just be a little humble, But anyway, the Gayatri mantra is chanted by Brahmanas, and when you get initiated, your first initiation is in the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra. And then when you are, after a certain period of time, the spiritual master designates you as being sufficiently steady in your service. In other words, you're continuing to surrender to Krishna at every point in your life, and read and apply the knowledge that you're reading into your life, and you're doing that on a continuous basis, 24 hours a day. Then he might give you Brahminical initiation, and then you'll receive the Gayatri mantra. That's like 10 different, or it's not 10, but it's chanted, each mantra is chanted 10 times, but that's another matter. But that's an interesting pastime, though. You never know what's going to go on with these hippie gatherings, But, if you're chanting Hare Krishna, that's good. It doesn't matter. There's no hard and fast rules for chanting the holy name, and people will benefit whether or not they know what's going on, whether or not the guy's initiated, whether or not, it doesn't matter what kind of beat or time or place. It doesn't have any hard and fast rules for chanting. It's just the mantra itself is in and of itself sufficient to awaken within a person the transcendental realization. It's good that you introduce that into the mix there, wherever it was. Was that like a holding of hands thing?
So I am going to the peaceful gathering. It was singing in love. It was singing in love, and there was also a little bit of like, there was a lot of like piecemeal, just like a pulling of a lot of different traditions, and they had like a talk about cultural appropriation, and I don't think that they fully understood what that was, because if you're not in the community, it's cultural appropriation. That's it. And actually, I applied to share chanting at Starwood, and hopefully they let me do that. I think that that would be cool.
So what's it? What you apply at? What Starwood?
Starwood.
Starwood. Where's that? What's that?
It's another festival. It's in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna go with Genevieve.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. You know, wherever you can chant, that's great. You know, I've never heard of Starwood. I thought you said Star Wars because I'm old. I just remember the Star Wars. But actually, Alan, I gave him a book called The Lotus and the Jedi, which is about Star Wars, and it's about how Star Wars is based on the Ramayana, or Lord Ram. It's actually based on, because Hanuman the monkey, that's Chewbacca. Princess Leia is Sita, and Luke Skywalker is Ram. This is all based on something that Lucas had this guy at his ranch, the Lucas Ranch, and he was a college professor who knew a lot about so-called myths, and he was fascinated by those so-called myths. He didn't know that they were real, but they are real.
Who's Han Solo?
Han Solo. That must have been like, I don't know. I haven't read the book yet. Alan, do you know who Han Solo was in the Jedi and the Lotus?
His brother.
Oh, that was Lakshman.
Lakshman. That's Lakshman.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought it would be.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it's really cool. You know, it's like, because it's such a perfect story, and it's actually real, and that's why it drew his attention. But these stories and these things that happen, they're simply meant for attracting the living entities. You know, we got so much garbage in this world as far as like different newspapers and magazines that people read, and the Bhagavatam is compared to the swans that cruise around in these crystal clear lakes, and they're interested in this literature. But the crows, they're interested in the big piles of garbage, which is like, newspapers and magazines. So you read them once and you throw them away the next day, and it just kills all the trees. That's the end result. And they just pollute their minds with all this nonsense, and it doesn't have any lasting value. But Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam has been around for millions of years, for at least 5,000 years on this planet. And it's also in other planets too, that it's been around like forever. So
yeah, you're right about that.
So that's really, I mean, why would we want to listen to any other thing but besides the spiritual realm, because everything in this world is temporary, sports and movie stars and all this other nonsense. It's just what Prahlad Maharaj says is chewing the chewed. If you can imagine just chewing a piece of, like chewing tobacco and spitting it out and then picking it up off the sidewalk and chewing it again. Ew. I mean, that's horrible, but that's what this material world is like. It's just repeatedly trying to eke some kind of pleasure out of repeatedly chewing what has already been chewed. The sense gratification and the, whatever pleasures that we get from our senses, it's been chewed already. But there's a higher taste that's available, and we just have to present it by chanting with other people, and so people can be attracted to this higher taste, and then they can give up the lower taste of chewing the spit out chewing tobacco, which is just totally gross. Are you coming to the program tomorrow, Melissa?
Yes. Yeah, it's your birthday.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's overshadowed by Lord Nrsingadeva's appearance day. But but that's good. Lord Nrsingadeva won't be mad at you then. I see you put a little. You thought that was funny that like I said, okay, you don't want to piss him off any more than he already is. he's already really pissed, you know. So Alan, you want to read the next paragraph, starting with the chief engineer?
No, I go up a little bit. We passed.
Oh,
We
okay.
passed the one. Yeah, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
I went down too far. Okay, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, right?
Yeah, go up a little bit. Yeah, it is. All right, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a narration of the Swarupa of the Lord manifested by his eternal potency. This potency is distinguished from the external potency which has manifested the cosmic world, which is within our experience. Srila Vasudeva makes a clear distinction between the two in the sloka. Sri Vyasadeva says herein that the manifested internal potency is real, whereas the external manifested energy is in the form of material existence, is only temporarily and illusory, like the merge in the desert. In the desert merge, there is no actual water. There is only the appearance of the water. Real water is somewhere else. The manifested cosmic creation appears as reality, but reality of which this is but a shadow, is in the spiritual world. Absolute truth is in the spiritual sky, not the material sky. In the material sky, everything is relative truth. That is to say, one truth depends on something else. This cosmic creation results from interaction of the three modes of nature, and the temporary manifestations are so created as to present an illusion of reality to the bewildered mind of the conditioned soul, who appears in so many species of life, including the higher demigods like Brahma, Indra, Kandra, and so on. In actuality, there is no reality in the manifested world. There appears to be reality, however, because of the true reality which exists in the spiritual world, where the personality of Godhead eternally exists with his transcendental paraphrase.
Sorry about that. It's amazing that, you know, when you realize that this whole world might just be a dream, you know. Sometimes they make movies like that, you know, like, what if this everything you I think back in the 70s there was this comedy troupe called Firesign Theater, and they had this album that goes, everything you know is wrong, you know. So it's like, you know, that was kind of a spoof, you know, and they had like spaceships flying over, you know, and all these conspiracy theories and everything. But actually, everything we do know, this material world is just like a dream. And the reality of actual realities in the spiritual world, because there it's eternal, and it's not temporary. The definition of reality is whatever is eternal is real, and whatever is temporary is not real. It's just temporary. I mean, the material world is not false. It is real, but it's temporary. It's a reflection. It's part of Krishna's manifestation. So it actually is coming from Krishna, therefore it's real, but it is temporary. It's like the clouds in the sky that appear and then disappear. Anyway, go ahead, Melissa. You're the chief engineer there.
Okay, I am a little bit confused though, because isn't it saying that it's not real?
It's not real. It's not real, but it is real. See, it's real and it's not real at the same time. Reality is defined as that which is eternal. So like all of our thoughts and feelings and emotions, like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you know, pleasure and pain arise from the sense perception, and therefore you should just tolerate without being disturbed, because these things are temporary. Your pleasure and your pain, your happiness and distress, your honor and dishonor, all these things are temporary, and they're not permanent. So in that sense, and those things are not permanent, but love of God is really permanent, and Krishna himself is eternal. We are also eternal, but this manifested world is just like everything that you see is like has a beginning and an end. This whole material manifestation is temporary. Krishna says, you know, this material world, there's something beyond it in the eternal spiritual world, that after everything in this world is annihilated, that part, the spiritual world, remains as it is. So that's the ultimate reality. This material world is, like he says, it's like a reflection. Doesn't he say that in the previous thing?
Yes, he did. That makes a lot of sense on what you're talking about.
Yeah. That, you know, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a thesis which will present to you exactly what is real and what is not real. And when you know the truth, you'll understand, you'll be able to separate what's real and what's not real. And you'll be able to figure out who is actually a devotee of God and who is a demon, who is an enemy of God, who is following the rules of God. You know, just like Emerson used to say, you can distinguish between an angel and a devil. And when you actually understand the truth, you can see the reality of things. Of course, you know, real devotee, a pure devotee, doesn't see any difference with anybody. But on the second class platform, we have to present Krishna consciousness. So we have to make discrimination between those who actually understand Krishna consciousness and be able to know reality from illusion. And we have to be able to distinguish those who don't have it. They're just involved in sense gratification and just satisfying their own personal desires without any thought of Krishna at all. You know, a pure devotee sees everyone as Krishna conscious, but we're not on that level. But even the pure devotee comes down to the second class level, and he'll treat everyone, in order to preach, he'll come down to the second class level in order to present Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, he sees everyone as related to Krishna. He sees everybody as being a better devotee than he is. And that's actually the proper position. But we can't imitate that position. Is that what, did that answer your question? Okay. Yes. We got about 6 minutes and 42 seconds left here. So read this paragraph and we'll go on.
The chief engineer of a complicated construction does not personally take part in the construction, but he knows every nook and corner because everything is done under his direction. He knows everything about the construction, both directly and indirectly. Similarly, the personality of Godhead, who is the supreme engineer of this cosmic creation, knows every nook and corner. Although affairs are being carried out by demigods, beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant, no one is independent in the material creation. The hand of the Lord is seen everywhere. All material elements, as well as all spiritual sparks, emanate from him only. And whatever is created in this material world is but the interaction of two engines, the material and the spiritual, which emanate from the absolute truth. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, a chemist, can manufacture water in the chemical laboratory by mixing hydrogen and oxygen, but in reality, the living entity works in the laboratory under the direction of the Supreme Lord. And the materials with which he works are also supplied by the Lord. The Lord knows everything directly and indirectly, and he is cognizant of all minute details, and he is fully independent. He is compared to a mine of gold, and the cosmic creations in so many different forms are compared to objects made from the gold, but such as gold rings, necklaces, and so on. The gold ring and the gold necklace are qualitatively one with the gold in the mine, but quantitatively the gold in the mine is different. Therefore, the absolute truth is simultaneously one and different. Nothing is absolutely equal with the absolute truth, but at the same time, nothing is independent from the absolute truth.
Yeah, so it's real and it's not real at the same time. It's the same and it's not the same. That's called Chintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, inconceivably simultaneously different and non-different. That's the definition of the absolute truth. And it really makes sense if you understand it from a spiritual point of view, from Krishna's point of view. And it kind of like answers all of the confusing questions about like contradictions and stuff that have to do with the material, the difference between material and spiritual, and who we are in relation to the absolute truth, who we are in relation to Krishna. Krishna is also a person, though. He's always a person. That we have to remember. And we are contaminated with this impersonal attitude because we have no idea who Krishna is as a personality. Therefore, we have to understand who Krishna is, and then we can actually get rid of our own impersonal contamination. It's my turn, isn't it? Okay. Conditioned souls, beginning from Brahma, who engineers the entire universe, down to the insignificant ant, are all creating, but none of them is independent of the Supreme Lord. The materialist wrongly thinks that there is no creator other than his own self. This is called Maya, illusion. Because of his poor fund of knowledge, a materialist cannot see beyond the purview of his imperfect senses, and thus he thinks that matter automatically takes its own shape without the aid of a superior intelligence. This is refuted in this shloka by Srila Vyasadeva. Quote, since the complete whole, or the absolute truth, is the source of everything, nothing can be independent of the body of the absolute truth, end quote. Whatever happens to the body quickly becomes known to the embodied. Similarly, the creation is the body of the absolute whole. Therefore, the absolute knows everything, directly and indirectly, that happens in the creation. This just reminds me of something that I'm reading now. I'm reading about Darwin's theory and evolution, and they think they're so fixed on it. You know, Darwin's theory has taken over the entire psyche of America for 150 years. Everybody thinks that that material nature and life arose from material chemicals, and it automatically took its own shape from that. And they're very attached to that idea, and they vehemently deny any other explanation. They reject everything else a priori. So that's what Prabhupada is talking about here. That they think a materialist thinks that matter takes its own shape without the aid of a superior intelligence. Intelligent design is the other thing. And I was just reading from, there's an intelligent design author called, his name is Stephen Meyer. He wrote a big book that I'm going to read next. It's called Darwin's Doubt. And it says in Wikipedia that he is an adherent of the pseudoscience called intelligent design. There's so much against the idea that anything else besides matter itself is the origin of everything, that they call it pseudoscience. But actually, they're the ones that are involved in pseudoscience, because they have no idea how life came from nothing or life came from chemicals. Anyway, we're about to run out of time here. I want to thank everybody for attending, you know, all two of you. And hopefully both of you will be there tomorrow, God willing, and we'll have a party for Lord Nrsingadev.
All right,
So thank you.
Fun. Sounds fun.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Bye.